So today is January 17th, 2022. I am starting The Last Witch by Andrew Sapkowski. I don't know how to say this author's last name. To be honest, I'm going to embarrass myself by trying to say it. I'll eventually figure it out. But I'm going to be dual reading this in a way because I'm going to be reading it on my Kindle and physical form. And this is just the start of the reading vlog to record my thoughts about the series. I'm watching the TV show right now. I'm halfway through season 2 of The Witcher, and oh my gosh, I am obsessed. I am going to be buying the video game and playing the video game. I'm someone who doesn't like video games, so the fact that I am about to buy a video game and to play a video game is kind of a big deal. I'm one of those people who, like, you cannot get me to, like, sit down at a console for anything. So I am going to turn this off. I'm going to start reading, and then I will check in with y'all before I go to bed. So I have just finished my reading for the night for this book. I made it to in the physical book, I made it to page 41. And on my Kindle, that is 13% of the way through. I'm keeping my Kindle and my physical version at the same spot. That way, when I take my Kindle with me to work, I can pick up where I left off in the physical copy. And then when I get home, I can just catch the physical copy up to where my Kindle is. This is my first time reading a book translated from another language to English, and I can definitely tell it's been translated. Some of the sentence structures are a little bit different than I would see if I was reading a book written by Sanderson or Nicholas Sparks or any of them who are native English speakers. But I'm liking it. The fight scene in the very first chapter, which is called The Witcher, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's called The Witcher. Dang, I really like how the author wrote that. I think you say it's Sapkowski. That's how I'm gonna say it. Sapkowski, how he wrote this fight scene with the Striga. I am watching the TV show, and in the TV show, in season 1, the Striga is like episode 3 or 4, and I think it's funny that that's the first story I read in here. It's definitely following the show definitely follows the flashback format of this, because there's like a prologue style chapter, and then you have the story of the Striga, and then the next chapter is called The Voice of Reason, and it starts off back where you're at whenever he has the prologue. I don't think the jumps are seamless. No, I do think the jumps are seamless. Sorry. I was going to say, I don't think, like, I saw people talk about how the jumps are weird. I don't think that they're weird. And in fact, something I actually truly enjoy, that this is my first time ever seeing in a book for myself, having read, is that you see at the top of this, it says 1. And then where my bookmark is 2. I like that because it gives goals. It's like a mini chapter inside of a chapter. And I like that because if I want to stop somewhere, then I feel like I've reached a stopping point within the chapter and can just stop with this book, instead of like a normal chapter that we're used to where it's like a full chapter. There's no stops and no breaks. This does these breakups. And for me, I like that. That's something unique that I've never seen before. And I'm going to be honest, like, at first, I hated the covers, and I know that these are from the video games, but I actually really like that. I think it's fantastic artwork. Like, looking at that now and like actually seeing it and absorbing it, it's really, really nice artwork. And now that I've made up my mind that I'm going to play the video games on top of reading and watching the show, I can appreciate that for what it is. And I've been listening to the soundtrack from the show on Spotify. So I feel like I'm getting a better grasp of this world that I'm going into. I definitely can say I'm enjoying the writing. So it feels a little bit long in some spots, and it's kind of like, okay, let's keep going. I don't need it to be, and he said, and he said. I get that he's talking. I do have that complaint. Like, that little area is just like, okay, come on, speed up. Speed up. I don't have to hear this. Like, you don't have to say, and he said, or they said. I get that they're talking. I'm just being picky. But that's my thoughts for the first chapter, for the first 38 pages of this book. I'm 18% through with The Last Wish, and I'm at the part where he meets Nevelyn, which is far different than how him and Nevelyn are in the show. But something I think that I like from the show is how it seems like Henry Cavill really embraces the way Geralt speaks in the book. And I noticed that they have the same speech pattern. It's very, very similar. And I like that. I like that it feels like he's the character come to life, not like it's an actor playing a character. That's just an observation. So I am exactly 24%, hopefully you can see that, done with this book. I was reading this at work when I came to this chapter, and like I said, I watched the TV show before I started the book. So this blew my mind for this part. This last part of this chapter where he meets Nevelyn is literally like word for word at the very end of this chapter what's said in the show. I think that's so freaking cool. So I'm going to read this small little part. Mind you, this is an excerpt from this book, The Last Wish by Andrew Sapkowski. This is not my intellectual property. This is his. Sharing a small excerpt. This is not my intellectual property. I want to be very clear about that. There's a grain of truth in every fairy tale, said the Witcher quietly. Love and blood, they both possess a mighty power. Wizards and learned men have been raking their brains over this for years, but they haven't arrived at anything except that what, Geralt? It has to be true love. That is literally like word for word in the show. They only changed a small smidge right there. Oh my gosh, like, that's freaking cool. I don't know whether we credit the writers for that, or we like credit Henry Cavill for that, or whoever, because I know people say that on set Cavill is always like, this is said in the book and this is done in the book on this page. So I kind of wonder how much is influenced by him or how much the writers researched. Whoever researched and used that, though, oh, I don't know, this just makes my nerdy heart happy to see that. So I'm going on to chapter 3, The Voice of Reason, and see y'all later. So I am 44% through with The Last Wish, and I have decided to try to annotate for the first time. Sorry, that's one of my Christmas cards from a friend, but it's marking a place I want to annotate. This passage really stuck out to me. It's I'll go ahead and read it. Well, I did already read it in a previous clip, and so I decided to try to annotate it. It's said almost word for word in season 2 of the show, and I really enjoyed it. And my annotation to the quote is, "Love is one of the greatest gifts mankind has, so great that even the darkest men and monsters can feel it." And then earlier in the book, which if you've seen season 1 of The Witcher, you know that there's a fight with a Striga. I'm going to annotate that area because that really stuck out with me. So I'm probably gonna like physically read this book twice, maybe. Because as you can tell on my Kindle, there's a little 44% sign on there. And I have 4 hours and 29 minutes left in the book. that's how I'm doing so far with this reading of The Witcher, The Last Wish. So I finished The Last Wish by Andrew Sapkowski, and this book is going to stick with me for a while. I seriously loved this book. It made me laugh, which I don't know if it was intended to be funny, but I found certain parts of the book to be absolutely hilarious and just stuck with me. I will do an actual like full review here on the page. So I won't go into too much detail, but I definitely love the book. And if you've been thinking about getting into The Witcher, and maybe you don't typically read fantasy, or you're nervous because it's translated from Polish to English, or for whatever reason, I do strongly suggest it. If the time jumps possibly scare you or make you nervous for any reason, don't let them. They're good. It's actually really good. I am going to be talking about the adaptation, but first I feel like I need to read Sword of Destiny because that's the second prequel novella, and I know that there's stuff that was in the TV show that was not in The Last Wish, so I'm fairly certain there's stuff that comes from Sword of Destiny. So, before I talk about the show and my thoughts on the show and how I feel it adds up as a adaptation of the book, I am going to read the next short story set, which is Sword of Destiny. And if you like this reading vlog, let me know so I can make more of these.